With lots of pencil brands to choose from, it can be really hard to know which ones are good and which ones you should avoid buying. So in today's video, I'm going to be comparing 15 different coloured pencil brands to see which ones are the best and which ones are the worst. I'm going to be comparing pencils from the highest price point to the lowest price point to see whether some cheaper pencils are going to give you better results than more expensive pencils. Hi, I'm Amy and welcome to my channel. If you haven't already, please make sure that you do subscribe to my channel and turn the notification bell on because I upload art videos here every single week. I also have a Patreon page where you can become a patron today, and I do things like colouring pages, mobile and desktop wallpapers, and also mindful art activities and lessons. So if that sounds good, then I have my Patreon listed down below. So without further ado, let's get on to today's video. So let's put these 15 coloured pencil brands to the test to see which pencils are ultimately the best. I'm going to be testing loads of things from the colour range, pigmentation, saturation, blending abilities, details and so much more to see which ones are the best value for money but also the best quality as well. And I'm going to be testing pencils from the very top end of the range, so really expensive pencils, the Caran Luminance, the Derwent Lightfast pencils, but also some very cheap pencils as well, including Crayola pencils, which as we know are very cheap pencils and are used by a lot of people. So let's get into this video and see which ones are the best. We're going to be comparing the Derwent Lightfast pencils, one of the best pencils on the market, another range from Derwent, which is the Derwent Drawing pencils, the Caran Luminance, which is one of the most popular pencil brands on the market, the Faber Castell Polychromos, one of my all-time favourite pencil brands, my go-to pencils. Also the Faber Castell Classic pencils, which are a cheaper variation of Faber Castell pencils, the Prismacolor pencils, which I know is a personal favourite of many, the Arteza pencils, these are becoming fiercely popular in the art community, the Giotto Stilnovo, which are aquarello pencils, so watercolour pencils, but I still use them for colouring books and colourings and things like that, the Staedtler Noris colouring pencils, the Pentel Arts pencils, which are a lesser known brand but very cheap, but are they good? The Bic Color Up pencils, which I know a lot of people will probably recognise, the Classmaster pencils, which are referred to the cheaper alternative of Arteza, so are they really that good? The Artbox pencils, which are a cheap pencil, the Helix Oxford pencils, and finally the Crayola pencils, one of the most popular pencil brands. So first up we have the Derwent Lightfast pencils, which is probably the most expensive pencil brand, or one of the most expensive brands on the market, and all I am doing here is just doing some swatch tests, so just seeing how well the colour pigmentation is, how saturated the colours are, and also looking into layering and blending. So how well do these colours lay out on the paper? Well, as you can see here, they actually create really creamy and buttery results. I really love how these pencils lay, and they are so good for blending and mixing colours as well. So we're going from that yellow into that fiery red, and I think that they give such great results in terms of layering, burnishing and blending. The colour pigmentation is so vibrant and very creamy, so it's very easy to actually get the colours laid down onto the paper and really get the colours into all the crevices of the paper as well. So testing with some techniques, these pencils are great because they are oil-based pencils, but compared to the Polychromos, they are still a little bit more creamy, so they're great for both creamy textures but also for those details as well because they are oil-based, so they can hold a point for long times. The Derwent Drawing pencils, also a range by Derwent, but a much cheaper variation of pencils than the Derwent Lightfast pencils. I really like these pencils. I just have a set of 6 pencils, so just a very small set of these pencils, but I think that they're very buttery and very creamy, and because of that they are great for layering. I would say these pencils are best for portraits because they have a lovely soft core, which means that they'll be able to create lots of lovely soft textures. But that doesn't mean that you can't use these pencils for animal drawings either. As you can see on the tin of the box of pencils, we can actually see that there is an animal drawing on them, so they would be great for animals. This set of pencils has lovely soft earthy tones as well, so they'd be great for animals and landscapes. And with the swatch test, I got great pigmentation results. The colours were very saturated. It was very easy to mix colours as well and create lots of different tones and contrast. There's great values as well, and also these pencils, as I said, are great for details too because they can retain their sharp lead as well, but they're also great for things like portrait drawings because they are very soft and creamy. Now, one of our fan favourites, which is the Caran Luminance. These are one of the most expensive pencils on the market, and the main reason for that is because they are 100% Lightfast, the same as the Derwent Lightfast pencils. So these pencils are most known for how creamy they are. They have a very buttery feel to them, but they also have a bit of a harder lead as well because they are a mix between wax and oil pencils. So these pencils really have the best of both worlds. They have the best of the wax features and the best of the oil features, which means that they're a great all-round pencil to use. They'd be great for things like portraits with those really lovely softer tones, but also great for things like animal drawings because they have that brittleness to the lead and can hold their point for a very long time. I love these pencils. I think that they are one of my favourite brands of pencils and really high quality. They work so well with lots of different techniques. The colour pigmentation is so strong, it's very easy to lay down colours. You've got a great range of colours within the set of 76 as well, so many skin tones, earthy tones and more vibrant tones as well. So this is a great pencil. Obviously the downside to these is that they are quite expensive, so if you're a beginner you might want to use some pencils that are cheaper. The Faber Castell Polychromos pencils. These are one of my go-to pencils, and the reason why is because I particularly love to draw animals, and these pencils are perfect for that. They are an oil-based pencil, which means that they have a much harder lead than wax-based pencils, and because of that they're able to retain their sharp point for longer. Sharp points on pencils are very important for animal drawings because fur texture has a lot of detail. Because of this, they're not as easy to blend, they're not as creamy as some of the wax pencils or pencils such as the Derwent Lightfast pencils and the Caran Luminance, but you can still get some great layering results. The thing that these pencils are best for though is their details. These are great for beginners as well because you can buy smaller sets of these pencils at a cheaper price, but they are still quite expensive compared to the cost per pencil compared to other pencils, so just be wary of that. The colour pigmentation again is brilliant, and the thing that I love about this set of pencils, this is the set of 120 pencils, is the range of really vibrant colours, whereas in some other sets these are lacking. So these are an overall great set of pencils. The Faber Castell Classic pencils are a much cheaper variation of pencils by Faber Castell. So these are the cheapest colouring pencils I believe that you can get from Faber Castell. The gold Faber would be a step up from these ones. Now there is a noticeable difference in the quality of the pencils compared to the Faber Castell Polychromos pencils. These are a lot scratchier and a lot more brittle. So it's not as easy to layer down colours as it is with some of the other pencil brands. As you can see there, the colour saturation is not very good, so you don't get a lot of strong colours. I had to really press very hard onto the paper to get any colour pigmentation down there at all. The colour swatches therefore were not great. Some colours showed up more than others. I found that in general the more vibrant tones did not show up as well as the earthier tones, but these might be a great alternative if you're wanting to save some money and just use pencils for practice or for beginner work. I wouldn't use these pencils for professional quality drawings though. As you can see here, we really are struggling with some of the techniques. For example, layering, it's very hard because the colour saturation is just not there and the colours just don't mix well at all together. It's sort of like laying colours over the top but not really blending in. So it's very hard to achieve certain techniques. Again, with the burnishing, you can just see how blotchy these pencils are, and that is something to be wary of. The Prismacolor Premier pencils. These pencils do get a lot of criticism for the way that they are made. They did change their manufacturers several years ago and the quality of them is not as good. So that is the first thing that I would say about these pencils. They break easily because they have an off-centered lead, and it's very hard to retain their sharp point because they are so prone to breakages. However, I use them with a helical sharpener and I get great results and I hardly experience breakages now. And when I can use these pencils properly, they are a beautiful pencil to use. They are soft core, they are waxy and creamy. So these pencils are great for portraits, and they are much cheaper than the Caran Luminance pencils. So if you want to save some money, these are a great alternative and a great pencil to use for portraits in particular. And that is because they have such a wide range of colours for portraits, skin tones, and colours that you would need for different variations of skin. The colour pigmentation is also really strong with these pencils, so it's very easy to lay down colours, it's easy to blend them, burnish these pencils, and it's also easy to mix colours together and layer them on top of each other, including with other pencil brands as well. So these are a great alternative if you're wanting to save some money but you still want a professional quality pencil. You just have to remember that some of the pencils do have a poor Lightfast rating, which means that they are prone to discolouring and fading in natural light. The Arteza Premium pencils. Now, I've never tried these pencils before. I have tried their watercolours but not their pencils, so I was really intrigued to try these pencils, and I've personally heard great reviews about them, and I can see why. These pencils are so pigmented, they have great saturation to them, the colours are so strong. The colours are one of the most vibrant sets of colours that I've ever seen as well, so if you're really wanting to focus on very vibrant colourful pieces, these pencils will be for you. And they are quite a cheap pencil brand in terms of the fact that they are still on the professional quality side of the pencils, but they are very cheap and inexpensive. They are great for layering, they're very buttery and creamy, it's easy to mix colours, blend colours and burnish colours as well. I just absolutely love the texture, the feel to these pencils and the way that they lay down on different types of paper as well. Obviously I'm just showing one type of paper here, but I did test all of the pencils out using lots of different coloured paper, and I really like these pencils. The Giotto Stilnovo pencils are actually watercolour pencils, but I wanted to include them in this because I know a lot of people use watercolour pencils for colouring books and colourings and drawings, and I do as well. So I don't typically use a lot of these pencils with water anyway. I will just use them normally like coloured pencils, so I just wanted to throw these in there as well and just give people an alternative if you are using water soluble pencils. I chose these pencils because they are a very cheap pencil and they have a very low cost per pencil as well. These pencils, because they are water soluble, are very soft and creamy, so it's really nice. These would be great for things like adult colouring books where you're going to be using a lot of bold colours and colouring in and shading and layering. And I really liked the creamy and buttery results. I did also try blending them with water and I thought that they blended really well, but they still kept their pigmentation, so they didn't lose their saturation once I blended them with water. And as you can see there, very easy to mix other colours in. For example, with the yellow and the blue, it created that really nice green colour. The pigmentation is very strong as well, and overall I really did like using these pencils, and I thought it would be nice to just throw another type of pencil into the mix as well. The Staedtler Noris colouring pencils. These were one of my go-to pencils when I was younger, and I do actually really like the feel of them. So on first impressions they are quite nice, they have good pigmentation and saturation, but Some of the other pencils do lay down a lot better than these pencils. Some of the colours were not as strong as other colours, for example the more vibrant colours. As you can see there with that blue colour, it was very, very difficult for me to get that colour down onto the paper. They didn't lay very well, and therefore it was very difficult to blend them and create nice, soft and subtle textures. I got a very scratchy result with these pencils, so that is something to bear in mind, that they're not the best for blending and creating soft and smooth textures. But because they have a much more scratchy feel to them, they would be good for more textured pieces. For example, if you were drawing animals or fur, these would be a really good option for you to use, and they are inexpensive as well, so particularly good for beginners and practice pieces. The Pentel Arts are a very cheap pencil, and I thought that they looked really nice when I first saw them, and I thought they did perform really well as well. So I got great colour pigmentation with them, particularly with the more vibrant tones, the yellows, the greens and the blues. They laid down really nice, so they felt quite buttery and creamy. They weren't the best, so there were others that are better. They still had a little bit of scratchiness to them, so they didn't quite blend out completely. There was still some stubborn lines showing through the shading, but on the whole, for a very cheap brand of pencils, these would be great for someone that just doesn't want to pay out a lot of money on pencils, just wants to have pencils to practice with. They perform really well in some of the tests, but I did notice that they struggle again with like that layering and burnishing. It's very, very hard to mix colours together, and you get quite scratchy results. So that is something to be prepared for. But in terms of the colour range, you get a lot of colours within the set, and it is a very cheap price. These are one of the cheapest pencils that I did try. The Bic Color Up pencils. Now these were quite a big disappointment. I thought that these were going to perform really well because they look nice when you take them out of the packaging, but unfortunately just some of the colour saturation was very faded. There weren't strong colours at all, and it was very hard to get a lot of pigmentation onto the paper. The more vibrant tones performed a lot better, but the more subtle tones didn't. It was very hard for me to get any good results with them. With the layering and burnishing, again I had this problem with the pencils being quite scratchy. I did expect this considering that they are very cheap pencils, and you can see just how bad they are there compared to some of the other pencils and the results that I got from there. I got very scratchy, very blotchy results. It's very hard to mix colours together, so you can see the clear difference there from the light blue to the dark blue. There's a lot of white paper grain left, so it's very hard to go into all the crevices of the paper and get those smooth results. But again, as I said, this is something that you will find a lot with the cheaper pencils because they are more poorly made. They're not as highly manufactured as some of the other pencils, so therefore they are a lower quality. But for beginners, these might be really good pencils to try out, and they are still a lot cheaper than a lot of other pencils on the market. The Classmaster colouring pencils. When I first took these out of their packaging, I thought they looked exactly like Arteza pencils, so I was really hoping that these would perform well, and they did. These are fantastic pencils. I can't even describe to you how much I loved using these pencils. I was blown away at how well they performed, and these were one of the cheapest pencils that I tested in this video. The colour pigmentation was so strong. There was lots of vibrant tones and a great range of colours as well for the set that I got. And there's the opportunity to buy larger sets as well, to have even more variation of colours. They were so soft and smooth on the paper. I actually got one of the best results in terms of smoothness and blending with these pencils compared to the other pencils that I tested. Even some of the more expensive pencils, in my opinion, didn't blend as well as these pencils. And look at the vibrancy. They are just like Arteza. They're way up there in terms of their colour pigmentation and vibrancy. These are great for beginners and great for things like adult colouring books or really colourful pieces and drawings. The Artbox colouring pencils look amazing when you look at the packaging, but they're a big disappointment in my opinion. In fact, I would rate them the worst pencils that I tried in this test. I did not like these pencils at all, and I nearly threw them out the window. They did not lay well down at all. The saturation was so poor, it was very hard for me to even get the boldness of the colours, the vibrancy there. It was so difficult to lay colours down, to mix colours. There really wasn't one thing that I liked about these pencils, and I definitely won't be using them again, other than just using them in the occasional video here and then, but I won't be using them in terms of for colouring pieces because I just didn't like them. They were so blotchy and scratchy. You can see there I'm getting so many marks on my paper, and I just hated the results that I got from them. And I don't like not being able to say anything positive about these pencils. I would really love to have just one thing to say about them, but honestly they were terrible. I did not like these pencils at all, and they were definitely the worst out of all the pencils that I tried. Even when it came to testing them with certain techniques, they were just impossible to work with. It was impossible to mix colours together and layer them. It was really hard to burnish colours because you just couldn't get enough pressure on the paper, and you still got very, very light shadows and shading and colours. The Helix Oxford pencils. Now, I have to say I was very disappointed when these pencils turned up because they are literally half the size of all the other pencils. These are tiny pencils. So from a price point, when you take into consideration that these are half the size of a normal pencil, it means that you're going to be replacing these very, very quickly and therefore spending more money on them. So even though they are priced very cheaply, you're still going to be replacing them very often. So I was very disappointed with how small they were. I did have quite a lot of breakages with one of the pencils in particular, and after sharpening the pencil just 3 times, the pencil was a tiny little stump. So I wasn't overly impressed with these pencils, and it was a disappointment because on the whole, these pencils perform really well. I like the vibrancy to them, the colour pigmentation is strong, it was very easy to blend these pencils. They weren't the best, but they certainly weren't the worst. But it was just the size of the pencil that really put me off of these pencils, and for that reason I won't be buying them again. But if you're a beginner, these would be a great option for you because, like I said, they actually perform quite well, and I thought that they were really good with some of the tests that I did. For example, layering. It's very easy to layer colours over the top of each other and create more of a palette and have more variation of colour, but it just let me down with the size of the pencil. And finally, the Crayola pencils, which are the cheapest pencils that I'm going to be testing today. I know that these are a fan favourite. I have personally created artworks using the Crayola pencils, and the fact that they are so cheap but so good is amazing. I was so happy to use these pencils, and I do love Crayola. I think that they're very good quality pencils for the price that they are. In fact, with the layering and burnishing, I got really smooth results, probably the best results in terms of this test than all of the pencils combined. Now obviously I'm not taking into consideration the light fastness, which is a huge aspect of colouring pencils, because if you're wanting to create professional artist quality drawings and you're wanting to sell your drawings, then light fastness is very important and you would want to be investing in a higher quality pencil. But if you're just wanting to practice or you're a beginner, Crayola pencils will never let you down. They have great pigmentation. It's very easy to lay down these pencils on lots of different types of paper as well. Don't forget that I have tried these pencils on lots of different papers, including all the other pencils as well. So all round, these are great pencils to use, and they are great for beginners because they are so cheap. I think these pencils cost me about £1.25 for the set of 12 pencils, and of course you can go all the way up and buy huge sets of pencils if you want to, so you'll be unlimited with your colours and your colour range and what you can do with them. These would be particularly great for adult colouring books because of the range and diversity of them, the fact that they're so good for use with lots of different textures and So those were the 15 pencil brands that I compared in today's video, and I definitely had some brands that really stood out for me that performed really well in lots of different tests and would be great for use with lots of different techniques as well, for example portraits and more textured. So let's take a look at the best quality pencils. Now I have a few pencils that I want to give a mention to. The first one is the Derwent Lightfast pencils. These are great quality pencils, as well as the Caran Luminance, which are one of the best pencil brands on the market because of their Lightfast rating. The Polychromos are great for things like animal drawings and very textured pieces, and they're my go-to pencils. I also chose the Prismacolor pencils because of their lovely soft core and they are great for portraits, and the Arteza pencils because of their colour range, vibrancy and pigmentation. So what about the best budget pencils? Now I have two pencil brands that I really wanted to mention from the pencils that I've tested in today's video. I thought that they were the best value for money and they performed the best in terms of all the tests that I did. That was the Classmaster pencils. I've never used these pencils before, but I thought that they were great for blending. They had beautiful pigmentation and lots of vibrant tones, and they were very similar to the Arteza but cheaper. And also the Crayola pencils, which are one of my favourite pencils still to this day, and they are perfect pencils to use for lots of different things, but they come at a very low cost. So I really hope that you did enjoy this video, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe to my channel and don't forget to turn the notification bell on either, because I upload brand new videos here every single week. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Keep creating, guys!